Yes, it's just turned 5 o'clock in the morning here in France. So, welcome everybody to this World Coconut Day 2020 on behalf of ICC. The theme of which is Invest in Coconut to Save the World. That's a very marvelous title. We have already 114 delegates online. My role today is going to moderate, so all I'm going to try and do is move things along and keep things running smoothly. And we have three main speakers today and some very important people providing some opening remarks. I would like to remind you that we're going to have the discussion at the end of the session so that we can keep to time as much as possible. And we also have two videos interspersed during the program for you to watch and listen to. The other thing to say is that mute your microphone when you're not speaking. And also that there's a facility you'll see at the bottom of your screen to raise your hand if you need to raise your hand, so far as I understand, if you want to say something. Is that correct, Jelfina, Mridula? We can raise hands, yes?
Yes, Richard.
Okay, fine. So with that, and without further ado, I'll be introducing speakers just before they're due to speak. We'll now listen to a video showing the ICC profile. So welcome everybody and enjoy the day, and thank you for your participation. Over to you, Alit.
Coconut is an important commodity for many countries in the world. Over 400 million farmers in the world rely on coconut products as their main source of livelihood and income. Total coconut farm area reached 12 million hectares with production reaching 69 million nuts per year. This equals to 11.6 million tons of copra. Still, many farmers remain in unfavorable condition due to various factors including low productivity, old and senile plantations, lack of direct access to markets, limited financial assistance and losses due to pests, diseases, natural calamities and climate changes. It is in the context of addressing these problems that the International Coconut Community or ICC came to its existence. The ICC is organized under the aegis of the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific or UNESCAP. The ICC Secretariat is located in Jakarta and is headed by Executive Director. ICC has a vision to improve socio-economic welfare of farmers and other industry stakeholders in a vibrant coconut sector. The ICC was established in the 2nd of September 1969, and initially founded under the name of Asian and Pacific Coconut Community or APCC by 6 coconut-producing countries, namely India, Indonesia, Philippines, Sri Lanka, Malaysia and Thailand during a ministerial meeting in Sri Lanka in 1969. Mr. Godofredo P. Reyes Jr. from Philippines is the first APCC Executive Director. After Mr. Reyes, several personalities have taken the command of APCC as Executive Director, and they are Dr. P.G. Puchihewa, Mr. Norberto M. Bocida, Dr. P. Rethanam, Mr. Romulo N. Arancan Jr., Mr. Yuran N. Salam, and the present Executive Director is Dr. Jelfina Sia Lo, the First Lady from the host country of Indonesia.
Due to the increasing members, APCC's status was upgraded into a global organization under the name of International Coconut Community or ICC. The status of upgrade was made during APCC 53rd Session Ministerial in Tarawa, Kiribati on the 24th of October 2017.
Full members of the community were made up of 16 countries. In 2020, we have 20 full members. The Secretariat has that very important role to become the medium for communication, communicating new knowledge, new technology, and be able to enable the sharing of the experiences from the more advanced countries with those less advanced, the more productive countries to the ones less productive.
The official declaration of the global status and the name was notified by UN Secretariat during March 2018. Official launching of ICC happened during 55th session and the ministerial meeting at Manila, Philippines on 28 August 2019. Currently ICC has 20 members include 8 Asian countries: India, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Sri Lanka, Thailand, Vietnam and Timor-Leste, 9 Pacific countries, Federated States of Micronesia, Fiji, Kiribati, Marshall Islands, Papua New Guinea, Samoa, Solomon Islands, Tonga and Vanuatu, 1 Caribbean country, Jamaica, 1 African country, Kenya, and 1 country in South America, Guyana.
The ICC has the main roles to assist member countries to increase productivity through conventional and non-conventional techniques. The ICC also aims to encourage the development of prospective products such as virgin coconut oil or VCO, coconut flour, coconut sugar and coconut waters, in which their demand has been increasing in recent years. There are so many advantages from consuming the coconut products, and each product has its own benefit. For example, VCO is good for lower plasma cholesterol, for antioxidant, for hair and skin care, and also good for wound healing. Coconut sugar could relieve the symptoms of diabetic neuropathy. Coconut milk provides a number of anti-aging benefits for the hair and skin. Coconut water is good for rehydration. Coconut flour could lower blood sugar and cholesterol. The activated carbon is good for remove toxins or chemicals post-ingestion. To achieve its objectives, the ICC organizes various programs which are approved and finalizes during the ICC session and ministerial. The ministerial meeting is held annually to discuss and take decisions on programs to be undertaken by the community. So far 55 sessions have been held by the community, with the latest one being held in Manila in 2019. ICC's main programs include Cocotech Conference. It is the largest international conference dedicated solely on coconut development. The conference discusses current technical coconut development issues to find the best solution for all coconut stakeholders. So far 48 Cocotech conferences have been held by the community, with the latest one being held in Bangkok, Thailand in 2018. The Cocotech conference is best place for producers and buyers to do a business matching. The Cocotech conference is also a forum for researchers, processors, traders and policy makers to meet and exchange information. Training, workshop, seminar and symposium aimed improving the capacity, skill and knowledge of officers and farmers of the member countries. To disseminate information on coconut sector in member countries, ICC produces a number of publications which include website. ICC website presents information on various aspects of coconut, from cultivation, processing and marketing. It also presents price update of various coconut products such as coconut oil, copra, desiccated coconut, water, milk and other products. Beside the website, the ICC also published printed and digital version of publications such as Cocommunity, a monthly newsletter, Cocoinfo International, a semi-annual non-technical magazine, and CORD Journal, a scientific journal on coconut. The ICC has launched a website designated specifically for CORD Journal, which has become a peer-reviewed journal and has been indexed in several indexing agencies. ICC's other publications include Coconut Statistics Yearbook and Market Directory of Coconut Exporters and Traders. A digital library has been developed to enable people access to a large amount of information wherever they are and whenever they need. To increase its role in developing coconut industry, the ICC has established cooperation with some international agencies for research and development, capacity building, technology transfer, seminar, and webinar. From January 2020, Coconut Genetic Resources Network or COGENT has become a major program of the ICC. COGENT is involved in the collection, conservation and analysis of coconut germplasm. The inclusion of COGENT's program within ICC is expected to strengthen ICC's role in revival of coconut industry.
Hello, my name's Vincent Johnson. and I coordinate the International Coconut Genetic Resources Network within the international coconut community. The network has the mandate for supporting the conservation and use of coconut genetic resources across the world, linked to 5 international gene banks and 19 national collections under a network of 39 country partners.
The establishment of ICC also initiated the World Coconut Day, which is celebrated in every coconut-producing country. The World Coconut Day celebrations are carried out in the form of festivals, seminars, and others form of celebration. This event is observed to highlight the importance and uses of coconuts.
2nd September is celebrated as the World Coconut Day to mark the establishment of the international coconut community. So the global market demand for coconut products is increasing. So synergies between coconut stakeholders is needed to increase production and to meet these growing demands. Such collaborations is also required to support value additions, processing and marketing of high-value coconut products, as well as to counter any adverse publicity against coconut and its product.
Challenges still lay ahead, but with hard work and strong cooperation and collaboration amongst the stakeholders, researchers and the farmers, the coconut sector can uplift from sunset to a sunrise industry.
Wishing all our coconut community friends and family a very happy World Coconut Day 2020. Stay safe and healthy.
Thank you, Alit and ICC, for that interesting video. In the interest of time, we want to move on. So the important thing for today is to highlight that ICC is addressing those factors that were mentioned in the video, particularly the 3 important ones of senile palms, pests and diseases, and market access. So I would like to now invite the Honourable, you have to forgive me if I mispronounce your name, Lopao Matanielo Mua, the Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries from Samoa, as well as the recent chair of the ICC. Could I now hand over to the Honourable Minister? Thank you.
Excellencies, Executive Director and former Executive Directors of our International Coconut Community, ICC, fellow colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. I am delighted in my capacity as the current Chairman of ICC to join you and give my opening remarks at our World Coconut Day webinar with the theme Investing in Coconut to Save the World. Our collective mission continues to be the sustainable development of our ICC member countries through the opportunity of our regions owning a significant proportion of coconut resources, the continuous enhancement of the livelihoods of our peoples in the rural areas and coconut growers of small holdings. The statistics speak for itself that a significant proportion of our coconut production are these smallholding communities of growers. We therefore note and understand that there is a significant number of communities that rely on our government and intergovernmental organizations such as our ICC to lead discussions and collaborations in finding solutions and bringing the gaps that will connect and deliver on our respective national objectives to enhance opportunities for our industries, partners and stakeholders, while specifically improving the livelihoods of our rural farmers and households. It is not lost on us that our coconut communities also satisfy environmental objectives in our efforts to mitigate climate change through our replanting efforts. And whilst it is a common goal, it is also not one of a global concern that aims at the reduction of global warming. In this vein, that we continue to support the collaboration of our coconut growing countries through the ICC Secretariat, which brings us to focus on the most important strategies that are realistic in implementation by us to sustain good livelihoods, industries, pristine environment, and cultural heritage, as is mostly emphasized through the 6 accelerated modalities of actions pathway, or simply Samoa pathway, and the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, SDG Agenda 2030, as most of you are aware. We often refer to the coconut tree as the tree of life. Other trees have often been referred the same, but none as more useful than a coconut tree. I need not expand on the many known uses of the coconut, which we have become accustomed and have discovered through time with the assistance of research and technological development and increasing quality production for all variety of uses and market demand. As we all know, the global demand for coconut products such as coconut water, sugar, cream, coconut oil, VCO, and activated carbon is increasing rapidly. However, a high proportion of our coconut trees are old and senile and compounded by the threat of pests and diseases, especially the coconut rhinoceros beetle and coconut agronomic practices have all led to the insufficient availability of raw materials to industries. We should therefore not be complacent in achieving new means of technology for production, new variety and quality of coconuts that are pest and disease immune to achieve our combined desire to realize the theme of this year's World Coconut Day, investing in coconut to save the world. I therefore encourage us all to scale up our national efforts via structured replanting programs to replace the old and unproductive coconut trees by the best selection varieties, promote integrated management of pests and diseases, apply good agronomic practices, and maximize economic benefits from existing and emerging markets through downstream processing of good quality products. In short, we urgently need to invest in innovative technologies that will increase our coconut production, and it is not an easy task. Time is of the essence, and we also note that progress is a process, and it can be a long process, but let us not give up. I also encourage our ICC member countries to be strongly united to combat issues that discredit our coconut resources and industries, such as the misconception on coconut oil promoted by the American Heart Foundation and others. The claim by Dr. Karen Michaels, a adjunct professor of epidemiology at the Harvard School of Public Health, that coconut oil is a poison. And the recent publication by Eric Mijard and People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, or PETA, titled Negative Impact on Biodiversity, is greater than that of palm oil production, are not helping us at all. And so we should aggressively promote the positive attributes of coconut, its products and byproducts through the wider media coverage possible. Further, more importantly, we are in unprecedented times during this COVID-19 pandemic, which has created a new normal in our lives and has become the greatest threat to global public health, economic growth, and our coconut sector. We therefore need to develop a much better preparedness and response plan and create the space to stay productive during this COVID-19 pandemic. I have been told that our ICC Secretariat is going to hold a series of online trainings and webinars to explore areas to learn new skills and innovation, to address challenges and opportunities in this COVID-19 environment. Such areas include the promotion of coconut oil, VCO, and coconut-based products as immune booster against COVID-19 infection. Our ICC Secretariat is also collaborating with universities on clinical trials of VCO against COVID-19 infection. We should also strengthen and expand engagement in global partnerships and multi-sectoral collaboration for research and development sharing and utilization of information, capacity building, and technology transfer to enhance sustainable development for our coconut industry. Our ICC Secretariat has signed a memorandum of agreement with the Non-Aligned Movement Center for South-South Technical Cooperation to hold online training with the theme Stay Healthy and Productive During COVID-19, and a memorandum of understanding to collaborate in research and development, capacity building, and technology transfer via seminars and webinars. I also encourage continued collaboration with local and international institutions to do clinical trials on BCO and other coconut-based products against COVID-19 and other diseases to scientifically prove the excellent attribute of our coconut products. In closing, the theme of this year World Coconut Day is Invest in Coconut to Save the World. And this theme obviously demonstrates and reaffirms the positive role of coconut and its products in our economic, health, social, cultural, and environmental sectors. I wish you productive deliberations during your webinar, and I and my fellow ministerial colleagues of our ICC look forward to reading the outcome report from your deliberations. Thank you for your attention, and God bless us all.
On behalf of the ICC and all of the delegates present, I would like to thank the Honourable Lopao Nathanielu Mua for that motivating introduction. And I would like to underline his having highlighted the need for replanting programs, selection programs, good agronomic practices, and economic promotion, and most particularly in terms of combating COVID in the months and years to come, and the necessity for a COVID response plan, and capacity building. All of those elements, I think, are extremely important. Before I go on to invite Dr. Delfina Alao, the Executive Director of ICC, to present her opening remarks, I'd just like to remind the now 156 delegates to mute your microphones when you're not speaking, to keep your comments until the discussion at the end, once again to express ICC's appreciation to all our honourable excellencies and scientists and private sector. The whole 3 or 4 different continents of the world are represented today, which is very heartening. It seems to me as if the whole value web of the coconut world is also represented today. The final comment I want to make is the Honourable Minister mentioning that we can together develop united responses to some of the common issues that the industry faces, not the least at the moment the adverse publicity we've been receiving in terms of the ostensible impacts on biodiversity and health. So with all of that, now may I invite Dr. Delfina Alao to present on behalf of the ICC. Thank you.
Thank you, Vincent. Good morning to you all. Excellencies, ministers, ambassadors, chairman of the International Coconut Community, honorable national liaison officers, and the alternate NLOs from 20 ICC member countries, former executive directors of ICC. I saw also administrator of a PCA, the technical working group, scientific advisory committee for health, resource speakers, farmers, and other coconut stakeholders, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, good day, good afternoon, and good evening to all. My apologies for those who are joining now from their inconvenient time, very early in the morning and late at the night. So we are separated by different hemispheres, but with the spirit of coconut, we are united today. So on this World Coconut Day 2020, let's give thanks to Almighty God for his incredible blessings, which protects us from the COVID-19 infections and has enabled us to come together even through this online platform in this momentous even today. So I'm delighted to welcome Excellency Ministers, Ambassadors, and all coconut communities who are joining this webinar for celebrating the World Coconut Day 2020. So the 2nd September, as I mentioned in the video, is celebrated as the World Coconut Day to mark the establishment of the International Coconut Community, formerly known as the Asian Pacific Coconut Community. So the objective is to encourage investment and promote the development of the coconut industry in the member countries, and to improve, of course, the socio-economic welfare of our farmers. So I'd like to express my heartiest compliments to the governments, NLOs and alternate NLO, coconut alliances, farmers, and coconut industries of ICC member countries, the international bodies, universities, coconut research institutes, and Coconut Authority, KAKs, SPC, former ED, and COGEN also, and the entire coconut community, as well as coconut consumer across the globe for your worthwhile contribution to the development of coconut sector. Thank you so much for your pivotal role in sustaining the coconut sector. And despite the COVID-19 pandemic, ICC Secretariat and our community from ASEAN, Pacific, African, Caribbean, and South American countries are finding other ways of celebrating the 2020 World Coconut Day to stay in touch and to acknowledge this special day. So the theme of this year World Coconut Day, Investing in Coconut to Save the World, actually highlights the valuable roles of coconut in many aspects of human life across the world. And it also reflects on how to address current situation, as well as to encourage our community to invest in coconut by implementing the structured replanting programs that replace senile palms by underplanting with the best selection of varieties available to farmers at the time of planting. So as you may know, that coconut palm is justifiably called the tree of life. We know it. The palm is grown in over 90 countries, where a significant number is consumed domestically, and a considerable volume of products and byproducts have been exported and used by over 110 importing countries, not only in the tropics, but also in the temperate countries. So the global exported value of coconut products that has been reported in 2019 reached 11.6 billion US dollar. The 20 ICC member countries now account for over 90% of the world's production and export of coconut products. This doesn't include the household and domestic utilization of coconut, both as food and non-food products in the informal sector. So the increase of health consciousness among consumers and the many uses of coconut as a functional food, source of energy, immune system booster, prophylactic and curative agent against several diseases, including COVID-19, and as an effective water purifier from toxic contaminants. These are only some of the major drivers for the growth of global coconut-based product demand. So the pandemic during COVID-19 pandemic has become the greatest threat to the global public health, economic growth, environment, and social life of people in many countries. A significant reduction in economic activities have been reported in several countries worldwide. So the time is challenging for many, including the coconut sector. We are aware that the impact of COVID-19 on coconut sector varies between countries and varies among the types of products also. There are things we must do amid COVID-19 to stay healthy and productive. Our qualified resource speakers today will correct several misunderstandings about some aspects of coconut oil, explaining the advantages of several products, especially in dealing with COVID-19. We hope that to present all relevant products, but time is limited. So we are set up a series of online trainings and webinars since last June to December in collaboration with some institutions, such as NAM Center, Philippine Coconut Authority, Coconut Research Institute in Sri Lanka, and Indonesian Palm Crop Research Institute. So unity and global solidarity are essential to face challenges in the coconut sector so that no member is left behind. I look forward to your active participation and a vibrant dialogue during this webinar. I wish every family and nation a successful and enjoyable World Coconut Day for 2020, and happy birthday to the international coconut community. May God bless us. Thank you. Over to you, Vincent.
Thank you very much. Thank you. A hearty virtual applause to Delphina. So now we're going to have some opening remarks in a moment. Before I invite the opening remarks from the ex-executive director of ICC, Dr. Rethinam, I'd just like to highlight the opportunities for common capacity building and say, for example, that thanks to the Australian government, ACIAR and DFAT, we are going to be holding, for example, a tissue culture symposium next year, which will help build the capacity of tissue culture across the world, which we need for part of the replanting program that we envisage. And there are other elements to capacity building that we will be joining hands together to create. So now I would like to invite Dr. Rethinam, who not only was he the chairman of ICC between 2002 and 2006, he's also on the editorial board of ICC's Accord journal. So, and now I understand he's back in Tamil Nadu and enjoying partly his retirement and some consultancy. Thank you very much.
Honored dignitaries, Honorable Chairman ICC, plenipotentiary officers, national license officers, beloved coconut growers, processors, ladies and gentlemen, Selamat Pagi. I am very happy that the international coconut community, Jakarta, Indonesia, is celebrating the 22nd World Coconut Day on 2nd September with the theme Invest in Coconut to Save the World, and organizing series of webinars, training programs, which are very welcome effort of ICC to make the coconut globally competitive. There is also another significance that the first lady executive director of ICC, Dr. Delphina, is organizing the celebrations with difference. APCC started in 1969 with 6 member countries, had expanded to 18 countries and completed 5 decades. APCC widens its scope and image as international coconut community with higher responsibility and expectations. Over a period of 50 years, global coconut area has increased from 5.23 million hectares to 11.92 million hectares, producing 69,485 million nuts. But we have to go a long way in increasing the productivity of the coconut, since the global coconut Since the coconut has an yield potential of 480 nuts per palm per year, our global average is only 33 nuts, as well as the ICC average. While India is getting 64 nuts per palm per year. So, a target-oriented mission mode approach has to be taken up to increase the productivity of palms and also increase the income generation from the unit land in unit time with mixed, multiple and multi-storied cropping and farming systems depending upon the need of the farmer. A target of doubling the yield and income should be aimed at and achieved within the next 6 years. When these two things are done, the raw material can be made available at a reasonable cost, which can promote many coconut-based industries to produce value-added products like coconut water-based product, palm sugar, virgin coconut oil, and its derivative, coconut milk, coconut cream, coconut milk powder, as well as biofuel, biolubricant, etc. So, more nuts per palm and more value per nut should be our slogan at the farm level. Cluster approach and farm level processing will help to have larger quantities of raw materials at each cluster point, and industries can easily collect the same. This will go a long way to increase the income and social status of the coconut farmers. Besides, it provides large employment opportunities to youth, women, and others in rural areas. It is heartening to note that the mindset change had come to our member countries in the recent years from the copra coconut oil to value-added products which are highly preferred in functional food, functional drink, pharmaceutical and cosmeceutical products, and thereby they are able to get good income as well as GDP and reduce the dependency on other countries who only buy coconut or copra at a cheaper price from us and make many value-added products and sell it back to us at a higher price. Exploiting the potential of byproduct utilization to convert high-value, eco-friendly products from the husk, shell, leaves, trunks of the removed trees while replanting and making eco-friendly products like geotextile, coir product, coir bed and mat, wall paneling, coir with grow bag, ice chips, which are largely preferred, and people love to have such a natural product for having healthy environment for healthy life. Activated charcoal, cell gasifier, cell powder, cell and fiber-based ornamental and cell-based household utensils, etc. are also gaining popularity and need to be explored. So, the coconut tree of life, nature's supermarket, provides all that needed for the human life, like food, drink, shelter, health, wellness, and wealth. Above all, the coconut plays a vital role in the management of dreadful diseases like cancer, HIV/AIDS, Alzheimer's, and recently the globally threatening COVID-19 and many more. So, investing in coconut to save the world should be promoted through investors meet, buyer-seller meet, campaigns, exhibition, trainings, and making consumer awareness of coconut for health. The products make available in consumer preferred packages with proper labeling. Coconut-based ecotourism has unlimited potential and need to be explored. There is need for having a global coconut development fund to meet these challenges. The global funding agencies need to be approached and appraised. I wish the Coconut Day celebrations a grand success and congratulate the ICC Secretariat for the new effort in making coconut globally competitive by motivating the people to invest in coconut to save the world from hunger, poverty and create livelihood, nutritional, health and wellness security, and also provide social security to all. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih indeed. Thank you very much, Dr. Revinam. There's been a slight change to the program in the next section where we're going to have some opening remarks. In this section, rather, that will be presenting, as I understand, at the end of the session and not now. I'd like to just highlight again a couple of issues that Dr. Revinam raised. One is on global productivity. We can band together and help to support productivity improvements, maybe up to 3- or 4-fold the current levels. Another element is the diversity of the food and production systems in which coconut is involved. Just to let the community know that we submitted last Friday a joint proposal with 9 partners for coconut systems in Kenya, Tanzania, Bangladesh and Indonesia for funding from the Swiss Development Corporation for a 4-year program to improve the diversity in coconut-linked food systems for $11 million. If successful, we'll be invited to develop a full proposal. I'm saying all of that because ICC can help promote these collaborations amongst partners to both raise resources, both technical and financial. So just to highlight that on this day, and also that, yes, ICC may have turned 50, and another thing to let you all know is that next year Cogent will turn 30. So I hope that perhaps sometime next year we can have some Cogent birthday celebrations and talk about strengthening the network in terms of coconut conservation for all of those reasons for value addition, and also to strengthen regional clusters. We've we had meetings with the Caribbean nations a couple of weeks ago and Colombia about a week ago, and also the SPC is going to talk more in the future about regional collaboration. So those are all ongoing things. So now, without further ado, I would like to ask Alit to put on the video about which is going to the VCO agents against COVID-19. Thank you.
Coronavirus disease or COVID-19 is spreading fast after the first outbreak reported from Chinese city of Wuhan in December 2019. Severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2 or SARS-CoV-2 is the strain of coronavirus that causes COVID-19. WHO declared COVID-19 a pandemic on March 11, 2020. As of May 11, 2020, over 4 million COVID-19 cases have been recorded across the world with more than 280,000 deaths, according to data from the World Health Organization. Meanwhile, 1.4 million patients have recovered from the disease. To contain the spread of the disease, countries impose lockdowns, closing offices, factories, malls, restaurants and even schools. Railway and airport services were suspended. However, such a drastic measure has severe repercussion on the economy. Economic growth stalled and unemployment increases. Thousands of companies ceased operations and millions of people lost their jobs across the world. Overall, the IMF projects that global economy will experience negative growth of 3% this year, the worst recession since the Great Depression in 1930. In an effort to find the cure to COVID-19, scientists are studying various substances including those coming from herbal products such as coconut. Coconut and its derivatives such as virgin coconut oil or VCO contains lauric acid, C12, capric acid, C10, and their monoglycerides, monolaurin and monocaprin. The substances have been known to have antiviral properties, and have shown promising against a number of diseases such as parainfluenza virus type 2, HIV-1, severe acute respiratory syndrome or SARS, Middle East respiratory syndrome or MERS and hypercholesterolemia. The coconut has been consumed by people in the tropics for millennia. It is the basis of many of today's prominent culinary traditions. The fresh coconut meat contains about 35% coconut oil. Virgin coconut oil or VCO is obtained directly from fresh coconut meat without chemical processing. VCO is GRAS or generally recognized as safe. Coconut oil becomes antibacterial and antiviral after in vivo hydrolysis with lipase enzyme. The antibacterial and antiviral compounds include monolaurin, lauric acid, monocaprin, capric acid, providing wide-spectrum activity. Coconut oil is 45 to 53% lauric acid, C12, and 7 to 8% capric acid, C10. VCO has been found to have contributed to the recovery of COVID-19 patients. Several people have testified that they have recovered from COVID-19 after consuming VCO. On the role of VCO in the process of his recovery from COVID-19, famous Indonesian motivator Tung Desem Waringin gave his testimony.
On 18th of March, I experienced high fever. On 23rd of March I took blood test and lung test. The result was 95% positive of COVID-19. On 1st of April, I got swab test again and the result came up on 4th of April which confirmed that I got suffered from COVID-19. The critical moments actually happened on 1st of April. At 3 a.m. in the morning, I shivered badly and could hardly breathe. At 04:00 I drank 2 spoons of virgin coconut oil or VCO. At 06:00 I went to toilet 3 times to defecate and urinate. Water and oily fat got out of my body. My condition improved. At 10 a.m. I drank VCO again, not just 2 spoons but a half bottle of 150 cc, so it was around 75 cc. That day I also drank around 3.5 liters of water. After that I went to toilet 6 to 7 times to defecate and urinate. Defecation is a process of detoxification which improved my condition. The following day I drank 5 spoons of VCO and I went to toilet again and again. The next following day I drank 100 cc of VCO. Yesterday and today I also drank VCO, but I did not go to toilet as often as the days before. I think that is because the toxic has all come out of my body. Yes, I also consumed medicines. I consumed Actemra and other medicines such as acetaminophen, chloroquine and haloquine. I also consumed high doses of vitamin C. Medicines are important for my recovery, but for me the most important factor is the feeling of happiness and gladness.
Tung Desem was declared free from COVID-19 and released from hospital on April 15. Further studies still need to be done, but the testimony provide glimpse of hope that VCO can be used in the fight against COVID-19. How does coconut oil become antiviral? Let's find out the answer by joining the webinar led by ICC, Scientific Advisory Commission for Health.
So that's very interesting and topical. I imagine most of us are aware of this ongoing proposal for VCO and COVID-19. So the next speaker on the agenda is Dr. Mary T. Newport, who, so far as I understand, is an American neonatologist. Neonatology is the study of the treatment and care of newborn babies. But also she has a lot of experience, as I see from her CV, in Alzheimer's research. And indeed, her husband was a victim of Alzheimer's. So she has some considerable deep experience of that kind of degenerative disease, which coconut, VCO and other coconut products can help treat. So without further ado, I'd like to invite Dr. Newport to talk about the health aspects of VCO. Thank you very much.
Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Mary Newport, coming to you from near Tampa, Florida, on the other side of the world. I wish I could be with all of you for this webinar. However, that is not possible, and I hope to see all of you next year. Today, I'm going to be talking about the health benefits of coconut oil. And for me, that began with my husband's amazing response to a dietary intervention with coconut oil that helped his early onset Alzheimer's disease beginning back in 2008. Alzheimer's is a huge problem throughout the world. Worldwide, there are nearly 50 million people with dementia, including Alzheimer's now, and this is expected to triple by 2050. In Asia alone, there are 23 million people dealing with dementia. About 2/3 of people with dementia have Alzheimer's. It has been said that if a treatment could delay the onset by 5 years, this could reduce the number of people affected by half, and this is because it is mainly a disease of aging. We still don't know what causes Alzheimer's, and there are no medications that improve cognitive performance. We know in Alzheimer's that there are plaques and tangles. We've known this for a long time, but there are other factors that include aging. The older you get, the more likely you are to have it. There are genetic factors, and there are some other factors that coconut oil might be able to help with that are part of Alzheimer's. Metabolic causes such as insulin resistance, which equates to poor glucose uptake in the brain, and a gap between how much energy the brain needs and how much it gets. Diabetes is a huge risk factor, about a 30% chance of developing dementia if you have diabetes. Inflammation is prominent in Alzheimer's, and microbes have been studied showing that some of these may trigger, accelerate, or possibly even cause Alzheimer's. One of the major factors that occurs in Alzheimer's and in other dementias and neurological diseases is a problem with decreased glucose uptake, which can be seen on FDG PET scans. People develop this problem in their brain 20 to 30 years before they have symptoms, and it has even been documented that people who are in their 20s who are at risk for Alzheimer's already have decreased glucose uptake in their brains. The Alzheimer's Association has identified a number of modifiable lifestyle risk factors. These are risk factors that we can change that may account for 30% of dementia cases worldwide. These include poor diet, lack of exercise, and many others. So diabetes, as we mentioned, is also a major risk factor. Diabetes is common throughout the world, and you can see here the rates for the various countries, many of them that are located in Asia compared to the US. Middle Eastern countries have a high rate, 15 to 18% of adults ages 20 and above. The Pacific Islands especially high at 22 to 27% of the adults having diabetes. So this is a worldwide problem and could account for much of the dementia that we are seeing these days. The extreme increase in sugar consumption in the US and throughout the world could explain these growing rates of diabetes. If you look at a chart here of sugar consumption in the US, you can see that it has increased from about 6 pounds per person per year of added sugar in the early 1800s compared to well over 100 pounds now. That is profound. If you look at wheat flour and rice, they are about 80 to 90% sugar. So we really need to look at what we are eating in our diet. So sugar is so bad because it causes the formation of what are called advanced glycation end products, or AGEs. And I think of these as substances that make you age. This happens when too much sugar, very high blood sugar levels, combine with fat or protein to form these harmful sticky substances that are very inflammatory. Harmful AGEs can damage nearly any organ, including our fat tissue, the nerve protection called myelin around nerve cells, and blood vessels, and many types of blood cells. Basically, the tissues that have complications from diabetes can be affected by this, including the brain. So now I will tell you about our story for those of you who do not know it yet. This is a photo of Steve and I from December of 2008, about 6 months after he had his dramatic improvement related to coconut oil. Steve was an accountant and he worked at home for my medical practice. And I was a physician working in the newborn intensive care unit. So I had emergencies and had to run off any time of the day or night. So Steve was there to take care of our children. And he said that was the best job he ever had. And for me, it made it possible to be a mother and a doctor. So I owe so much to him. When Steve was only 51 years old in 2001, he began to have memory problems and trouble doing things that continued to get worse over several years, and he was officially diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's in 2004. He was going downhill fast in 2008. He could no longer use a computer, do any accounting work, couldn't do simple math, and he had many other kinds of problems related to his Alzheimer's. But we came upon some good news that there were going to be 2 clinical trials for 2 new drugs for Alzheimer's. The evening before the first screening for the clinical trial, I was researching the risks and benefits of the 2 medications that he was going to try out for, and I came upon a press release about a medical food that helped improve memory and cognition in nearly half of the people that took it. When I looked into their patent application, I learned that it was MCT oil. I learned about diabetes of the brain as Alzheimer's, and I learned that coconut oil was a possible solution because MCT oil is extracted from coconut oil. But I could not do anything about it that first night, and because he was testing the following morning. So we went for the testing and he scored only 14 out of 30 points on a memory test that he needed at least 16 points to qualify. So we were very disappointed, and I picked up coconut oil on the way home. Before we left, the doctor had him draw a clock, and you can see here that this is not a normal clock. It is very disorganized, and she told me he was on the verge of severe Alzheimer's, which was quite devastating. So when we got home, after picking up some coconut oil, I learned all about its fatty acids and that it was about 60% medium chain triglycerides, and I calculated a dose that he could get that was equivalent to the medical food that helped so many people. So the following day he tried out again, and this time he gained 4 points on the mini mental status exam and was accepted into the trial. A lot of things happened over the next weeks and days, and one of them was that we started greatly increasing the amount of coconut oil in the diet almost right away, adding it to lunch and dinner. And just one simple thing you can see is that his clock went from this, the day before he started coconut oil, to a clock that he drew 2 weeks later, which had a full circle, all the numbers, quite a few hands of the clock, but a huge improvement from the day before he started coconut oil. And at 37 days, his clock drawing improved even more. It was much tidier at this point. There were many other changes that occurred during those early days to weeks, and this extended to months, that he continued to improve. His personality returned, his sense of humor. He began to complete sentences more easily. He recognized family members that he hadn't for a year. He began to walk more normally, could pick up his feet and run. He was able to start reading again after 3 or 4 months and comprehend and remember what he read at about 9 or 10 months. Steve improved so much that he was able to start working as a volunteer at the hospital where I worked. He worked in the warehouse putting stickers on supplies and helping deliver supplies to the various nursing units. So how could coconut oil help someone like my husband with Alzheimer's disease? Well, one of the major factors is that the brain has metabolic flexibility. It can use either glucose or ketones as fuel. And when we're on a typical high-carb diet, our brain mainly uses glucose. We're not burning fat, which is where ketones come from naturally in our bodies. But if we're fasting or taking something like MCT oil, we can produce ketones, and this can provide fuel to our brain. When we're on a typical diet, we are burning mainly glucose as fuel, and we have almost no ketones in our blood. However, if we begin to fast or are starving, we begin to increase our levels of ketones fairly quickly in a matter of a few hours, and over a period of days they will rise quite high to the point where after prolonged starvation, we're talking 7 or 10 days, ketones are providing about 2/3 of the fuel to our brains. In a problem like Alzheimer's, where there is difficulty getting glucose into brain cells for fuel, ketones can easily cross into the brain and enter the same biochemical pathway that produces the energy molecule ATP, which we need to perform the functions of each of our individual cells. An interesting fact about MCT oil, or medium chain triglyceride oil, is that when we consume it, our liver converts part of that to ketones, and the rest of it is emptied into our bloodstream. And medium chain triglycerides themselves, we have found out recently, can be used directly by the brain as fuel. As I said earlier, MCT oil is extracted usually from coconut oil or palm kernel oil. Coconut oil is about 60% MCTs if you include C6 through C12, lauric acid. Medium chain triglycerides are not contained of any of the common fats and oils that we use every day. But medium chain triglycerides are present in the fat of human breast milk and of the fat of other mammals. But overall, coconut oil is the richest natural source. When I first read about MCT oil in that patent application, I knew what it was because we had added this to the feedings of our tiniest premature newborns under 1 kilogram when I was doing my training in the late 70s and early 80s. Ketones provide about 74% of the energy to the newborn brain, and they are building blocks for the lipids and cholesterol in the developing brain. Since the 1980s, MCT oil has been added to many formulas, along with coconut oil and palm kernel oil, because they are trying to mimic the fatty acids that are found in human breast milk. This is my hero, Dr. Richard Veech of the NIH, who sadly passed away at age 84 at the beginning of February 2020. He and I had many communications shortly after Steve responded so well to coconut oil, talking about ketones and how it can help the brain. And he was developing a ketone ester. This was his area of expertise. And he had done studies showing that ketones protect the brain, protect brain cells. Dr. Veech believed that ketones might help not only Alzheimer's disease, but many other types of brain diseases and diseases in other organs that have a problem of insulin resistance, where there is difficulty getting glucose into cells to use as fuel because of the problem of insulin resistance or possibly other factors. So here you can see a chart of the many different diseases that could potentially benefit from ketones as an alternative fuel. But ketones also have many other metabolic effects, and you can see this very busy chart of metabolism showing hundreds, if not thousands, of chemical reactions that occur that are all intertwined with each other. And ketones drive not only the production of ATP for energy, but also many other pathways, including some that help reduce inflammation. Inflammation is a huge problem for Alzheimer's and many other types of brain diseases and other diseases involving the bones, the lungs, the heart, organs affected by diabetes, cancer. And so ketones, by reducing inflammation, may be able to help us overcome some of these problems. This is another researcher I have gotten to know quite well. This is Dr. Stephen Cunnane, who is at Sherbrooke University near Montreal in Canada. And he has been performing glucose and ketone PET scans, imaging of the brain, showing energy uptake in the brain that comes from glucose and ketones as fuel. And he has been able to show that the areas of the brain affected by Alzheimer's that have trouble getting glucose into cells take up ketones normally. This is very profound research because it supports the idea of ketones as an alternative fuel for the brain. Dr. Cunnane and his group have now performed scans in adults of all ages, from healthy young adults to healthy older adults with no memory issues, people with mild cognitive impairment, and people with mild Alzheimer's disease. And they have identified what they call the brain energy gap. This is the difference between how much energy your brain needs and how much it actually receives. And they have found in healthy, cognitively normal, older adults, people with normal memories, that there is a gap of about 7 to 9%. And this is even worse with mild cognitive impairment, at least 10% of a gap, and at least 20% for people with mild Alzheimer's disease. They have also found that taking MCT oil, 1 tablespoon twice a day, can provide the brain with 5 to 10% of its energy needs. It can help fill in that gap. And here is a slide that Dr. Cunnane provided to me showing that 3 tablespoons a day may actually be able to close the gap. That's 3 tablespoons a day of MCT oil. Dr. Cunnane's group has studied MCT oil in people with mild cognitive impairment over a 6-month period, and they are about to publish the final results of this study showing that indeed taking 2 tablespoons a day of MCT oil can result in cognitive improvement in people with mild cognitive impairment. There have been a number of studies now of MCT oil with and without a ketogenic diet for people with mild cognitive impairment and Alzheimer's. And I just want to highlight a couple of them here today. One of these occurred in an assisted living facility in Japan. And this was a study of 38 frail elderly patients, of which a third continued their regular diet, a third received a food containing 6 grams per day of MCT oil. This was a supplement with leucine and vitamin D. And a third received the same supplement, except it had long-chain fats instead of the MCT oil. And what they found was over this 3-month period, people taking the MCT oil supplement had significant cognitive improvement. They improved by 10% on that mini mental status exam, the 30-point test, and they also improved by 30%, that's astonishing, on a geriatric rating scale for mental status. People who were on the regular diet or took the other supplement got worse during the same 90-day period. In the same study, they looked at the effect on physical parameters in this group of people. And what they found was that the people who received the MCT oil after 3 months had better muscle strength compared to the other 2 groups. Their hand grip improved by 13%, their speed of walking by 12%, a test called leg open and close by 68%, and even a test of lung function, how much air they could expel from their lungs, improved by 28%. Another study was recently published that took place in China with MCT oil. And in this case, they had 46 people that had mild to moderate Alzheimer's disease. And this was a double-blind, randomized controlled trial that was a crossover trial. The people each had 30 days in which they took 17 grams a day. It was divided into 3 doses of an MCT jelly. And this jelly was 73% C10 and 27% C8, which is a little easier on your stomach than when the C8 and C10 are reversed. Then they had 30 days where they didn't take any supplement. Then the next 30 days, they took a placebo that was a canola oil jelly supplement. Some of the people had the reverse sequence where they started with the canola oil and then ended with the MCT oil. And what they found was that during the MCT period of time, that the Alzheimer's disease assessment scale improved by an average of almost 3 points from the baseline. But during the placebo period, they got worse by 2.5 points. They also found that their activities of daily living, this is how you function in taking care of yourself, that those scores did not change during either month. This group also performed what are called lipidomic studies. They looked at the fatty acid profiles of the people before and after each supplement, how these changed. And what they found was, while the people were taking the MCT oil, that there was an increase in what are called plasma glycerophospholipids. These are lipids that carry choline, which is deficient in many people, but it's deficient especially in the brains of people with Alzheimer's, and choline is very important to memory. So they believe that this could be at least a partial explanation of why people would improve. And they also found that the plasma levels of palmitic, oleic, and linoleic acids were lower after they took MCT. And these are fatty acids that are increased in brain tissue and in abnormal lipid deposits in Alzheimer's disease. For the last few minutes here, I want to talk about the other coconut oil benefits. And one thing that annoys me and probably all of you is that you may read an article in which they quote an expert, usually a cardiologist, who says they have never read an article about the benefits of coconut oil. Well, if they would simply look on PubMed, they would see that there are thousands of citations for coconut oil, medium chain triglycerides, lauric acid, and all they need to do is stop and read. The American Heart Association has also taken a hard stand against coconut oil for decades. And this is based on studies of animal fat, which is very, very different from coconut oil fat. You can see from the chart here that the longer chain saturated fats in coconut oil are very comparable. These are C16 and C18 saturated fats are very comparable to what you see in other vegetable oils, as compared to lard and beef, which have much more of these two saturated fatty acids. Whereas most of the saturated fats in coconut oil are those medium chain triglycerides that have so much of the health benefits. And these medium chain triglycerides, and even including C12 and C14, are not found much at all in animal fat or any of these other common vegetable oils. One important health benefit of coconut oil has to do with its lauric acid, which is half of the oil, and its antimicrobial effects. Lauric acid is known to kill bacteria and viruses and other types of organisms, including many that are known or suspected of causing or accelerating Alzheimer's disease. Lauric acid is 4 to 6% of the fat in human breast milk and is one of the factors that helps protect the newborn from infection, and it's used in many applications throughout the world, lauric acid and its derivatives, in disinfectants and antiviral wipes. It's used in the medical and veterinary industries. Lauric acid was also found to directly and potently stimulate ketone production in astrocytes in cultures by a group in Japan. And if confirmed in living creatures, this could very well explain why my husband and other people with Alzheimer's and other memory issues improve when they take coconut oil. Epilepsy researchers have reported that C10, or capric acid, has anticonvulsant properties and also stimulates mitochondria to multiply. Mitochondria are organelles inside of cells that produce ATP. Dr. Ralph Martins is an Alzheimer researcher in Australia that has taken a special interest in coconut oil, and I believe many of you have heard him speak at some of the other industry events. They published a review of coconut oil effects for Alzheimer's in 2015, and then more recently an update in 2020. And in addition to the ketogenic properties of medium chain triglycerides, they report that coconut oil contains phenolic compounds and hormones that help prevent the accumulation of plaques that form in the brain in Alzheimer's. And these are also antioxidant or anti-inflammatory compounds. They describe coconut oil as a highly nutritious functional food that is rich in dietary fiber, vitamins, and minerals, and that evidence has been accumulating as regards its beneficial effect in the treatment of obesity, dyslipidemia, which is high cholesterol and triglycerides, elevated LDL, insulin resistance, and hypertension, all of which are risk factors not only for heart disease, but also for type 2 diabetes and for Alzheimer's. On these pages, for anyone who does want to read about the health benefits of coconut oil, there are a listing of various clinical trials for obesity and for heart disease that Dr. Ralph Martins mentions in his studies. Dr. Martins and his group has done an unbelievable job of thoroughly researching coconut oil and how it can help Alzheimer's. They report in their latest update that VCO, compared to more processed coconut oils, does not appear to increase total cholesterol, but mainly increases HDL cholesterol. Coconut oil also has amazing benefits for the skin. It can help repair the skin barrier. It has antioxidants, those polyphenols we were talking about that can help reduce inflammation in the skin. It can help protect the skin from UV, ultraviolet radiation. It kills pathogenic bacteria, abnormal bacteria on the skin, such as Staph aureus and the bacteria that cause acne. Coconut oil has factors that help promote wound healing and also reduce skin aging related to environmental insults. There are a number of other strategies to help increase ketone levels, and this shows you where coconut oil and MCT oil fit in. They actually are at the lower range of what is possible with ketogenic strategies. People are often concerned, especially doctors, about diabetic ketoacidosis, and could taking MCT oil and coconut oil tip you over into diabetic ketoacidosis? And the answer is that this would be an extremely rare situation. The levels from ketones that occur during diabetic ketoacidosis are sky high, many, many times higher than what you could get from eating coconut or MCT oil. And in diabetic ketoacidosis, this is a person with usually type 1 diabetes who has no insulin. They're making no insulin. They have extremely high blood glucose. And because they have no fuel available to their cells, because they cannot get glucose into cells, they start breaking fat down very rapidly, producing massive amounts of ketones much faster than the body can compensate for. So this is a very, very different situation, and is just extremely unlikely that coconut or MCT oil would be a problem. I wish I had more time to talk about diet today, but just to wrap up, I just want to encourage everybody to get away from added sugar, sugary drinks, and the junk food that have just become so prevalent in the last 40 or 50 years. And I hope that you will move on to a healthy whole food diet that has adequate protein and more healthy fats like coconut oil. Back in 2008, when my husband first started taking coconut oil, it was very hard to find. I could only find one little jar on the bottom shelf at my grocery store. But now in 2020, the top shelf in the oil section is full of many different choices of coconut oil. I have written a few books now that talk about ketones as an alternative fuel for the brain and how coconut oil fits into that. They've been translated into other languages, including Mandarin and complex Chinese. Well, that wraps up my talk, and I just want to share my website and my email address with you if you would like any further information. My husband Steve was my best friend and my husband for 43 years, and he unfortunately did lose his battle with Alzheimer's on January 2nd of 2016, but we had at least 3.5 to 4 extra good years, better quality than the year before he started taking coconut oil, thanks to its wonderful benefits. So I hope that all of you will continue to stay well out there, and I hope to see you again next year. On the next few slides of this presentation, there are references of MCT and coconut oil studies and all about ketones. Thank you so much for listening in.
Thank you very much on behalf of ICC to Dr. Newport. Before I introduce Dr. Dayrit for the next speaker, I'd just like to highlight some of the important elements of the presentation we've just heard in the safety of VCO-linked products, in terms of how it has a capacity to fill the brain energy gap, how it can improve cognition, muscle function, the immune system, the cardiovascular system, and obesity. And one important element, of course, about coconuts generally is the coconut sugar in terms of lower glycemic indexes. So all of those things are important. So now I would like to introduce to the delegates Dr. Fabian Dayrit, who's the Emeritus Professor at the Department of Chemistry in the Ateneo de Manila University in the Philippines. He's a chemist by training, but he's going to talk to us today about the links between coconuts, virgin coconut oil health and COVID generally, to invest in coconuts to save the world. Also bearing in mind that he is the chairman of the technical working group for health for ICC. Thank you very much, and over to the speaker.
Oh, thank you, Vincent. And I'd like to greet everyone a good morning, good noon, or good evening. So I've been asked to speak briefly to you about the possibility of coconut oil and COVID. So the title of this symposium is Invest in Coconut to Save the World. So I have used the same title and I've entitled my talk, We Need the Coconut to Save the World. And hopefully I will be able to convince you why we need the coconut to save the world during this pandemic. So this is my brief outline. First, let's talk about strategies against COVID-19, VCO versus COVID-19, so describe some of the experiments, and propose the VCO solidarity studies. So strategies against COVID-19. Well, as we all know, COVID-19 is caused by this virus, SARS-CoV-2. It has 4 membrane-associated proteins, and the protein of interest is usually the S or spike protein, which attaches to the angiotensin-converting enzyme 2 receptor, or the ACE2 receptors in the body. The angiotensin regulates blood pressure, so it's quite important for maintenance of our health. The virus is coated by a lipid membrane, and the lipid membrane is not subject to mutation. So unlike proteins, which are subject to mutation, the lipid membrane is not subject to mutation because you don't need enzymes. The virus does not use enzymes to make the lipid membrane. SARS-CoV-2 belongs to this class of viruses called beta coronavirus, which can be inactivated by disintegration of the lipid membrane. So the usual advice to wash your hands and sing happy birthday twice really comes from this. The soap, which is a surfactant, can destroy the lipid membrane. Now, SARS-CoV-2 attaching to the ACE2 receptor. Unfortunately, there are so many ACE2 receptors in the body. So that includes, the brain, the eye, the mucosa, and so many other places. So it's not surprising that the COVID-19 affects so many parts of the body and has resulted in many other diseases. So not only is it a respiratory disease, it's also a disease affecting the GI tract, the heart, kidney, liver, causes diabetes, and also causes a cytokine storm or excessive inflammation. So SARS-CoV-2, I guess the first disease would be severe acute respiratory syndrome. It affects the respiratory system, the lungs. But in addition to that, COVID-19 affects the whole body. So it's not just a respiratory disease, but it's a whole body disease. And it also can cause severe cytokine storm, which is a severe inflammatory reaction. Now, to overcome this, we need antivirals. We need something which modulates the immune system, and we need anti-inflammatory agents. Now, the pharmaceutical strategy against COVID-19 would be 3 separate agents. So they've developed antiviral agents, for example, remdesivir. They're currently developing vaccines, which would address the immune system. And of course, there are anti-inflammatory drugs which are used, in the hospital right now. The antiviral agents, some of them have, limited efficacy, and well, remdesivir happens to be quite expensive. The vaccines are still under development, and the cost might be quite. We don't know how much the vaccines will cost. Anti-inflammatory agents, fortunately, the ones that they use are not expensive. So we go to the second part of VCO versus COVID-19. As already shown in the video, coconut oil is predominantly lauric acid. About half of it is lauric acid. They are packaged into triglycerides as coconut oil, and they are released by an enzyme called lipase, which releases monolaurin and lauric acid. And as the video said, you also release capric acid and its monocaprin, the corresponding monoglyceride of capric acid. So VCO really represents several potentially active compounds. Now I'd like to show you how VCO, but this would be against viral disease in general, are first antiviral, immunomodulatory, and anti-inflammatory, all at the same time. So this is the life cycle of a virus. Step 0 would be the free virus, and it attaches to the host cell, and the virus then releases its genes into the host cell. It replicates inside the cell, reassembles itself, and the process can also destroy the cell, and then is released into the outside, creating even more viruses. For pharmaceutical drugs, in this slide, we show at least 2 drugs which are used to counter this cell cycle in specific steps of the cell cycle. So for example, remdesivir addresses, stops replication, and chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine, turns out, can affect this cell cycle in several places. So what about VCO? Well, the in vitro antiviral action of lauric acid and monolaurin, and this study shown here is a study done in 1982, so quite a while ago, by here Holzer and Kabara, and they showed that monolaurin reduced infectivity of 14 human RNA and DNA enveloped viruses in a cell culture by over 99.9%. And monolaurin acted by disintegrating the virus envelope. Now, this is for a different viruses. So how does it work in against COVID-19? Well, in the work that we've done so far, and this is work happening outside the cell, monolaurin and lauric acid showed virucidal efficacy against SARS-CoV-2 virus to the extent of approximately 60 to 90%. So this is a small study that was done, and this is funded by the Department of Science and Technology, PCHRD, Philippine Council for Health Research and Development. Now, there are other mechanisms possible happening inside the cell, but more research is needed to study these other mechanisms occurring inside the cell. There's literature evidence from other viruses that lauric acid and monolaurin are effective. The study we've done so far is not really given conclusive results, so this requires more study. But at least this initial study confirmed that outside the cell, monolaurin and lauric acid shows virucidal or antiviral activity against the SARS-CoV-2 virus to the extent of about 60 to 90%. Now, we all need a healthy immune system to combat viral diseases, but the immune system is quite complicated, and you cannot have an immune system that's always on or activated, and of course, you don't want it to be off too long. So it needs to be modulated. You activate it to inhibit infection, but if it's overactivated, then you get allergies. So you want to minimize allergies by inhibiting your immune system. The cytokine storm happens because the immune system becomes hyperactive. And so in that instance, you want to suppress the immune system to avoid the cytokine storm. Now, the immune system has innate and adaptive aspects. The innate immune system is something that's always on. It would be like the border guards that's always there. But then if there's an attack somewhere, then you need a red alert and you call on the other troops. So that's the adaptive immune system. And there is already existing work that shows that monolaurin and lauric acid, monolaurin and VCO increase the T cell population. So it upregulates T cells. And VCO also increases CD4 and CD8 levels. So these are cells which are tracked to look at the response of the immune system. Now, this table summarizes the literature on immunomodulatory activity of coconut oil. And they've tested lauric acid, monolaurin, a certain coconut protein. Those were in vitro studies. Animal studies on VCO have shown these effects, and as well as some limited clinical studies. Now, if you this table highlights the upregulation of the adaptive immune system. So the data available on other viruses, on other systems show that lauric acid, monolaurin, and VCO upregulate the immune system, and those shown in bold are the things associated with the adaptive immune system. Coconut oil is also anti-inflammatory. These are some selected publications which all underline anti-inflammatory in their title. So there are many examples where VCO has shown anti-inflammatory activity. Now, of course, how this works in the case of COVID needs to be studied. So I hope I've been able to show you that there are examples of VCO being effective against other viral diseases. And in this in the limited antiviral study on SARS-CoV-2, it has shown some activity, so that the check VCO is active against beneficial for immunomodulation, although that would be against other viruses, and it has anti-inflammatory properties. So the question is, we need more studies to prove and to further understand the efficacy of VCO versus COVID-19. So that's where we are right now. And so we move to the third part of my talk, VCO, what I call VCO solidarity studies. And there are two parts to this. First would be randomized clinical trials, which is quite a formal study, needs a lot of preparation. But there's another way in which people can help, and this is the documented intervention treatment. Now, randomized clinical trials can be explained very briefly in these 4 phases. Phase 1 is to evaluate safety. Phase 2 is to test initial effectiveness. Phase 3 would be the rollout to more patients. And then phase 4 would be like, it's like an after sales monitoring. When you've released it, you want to see how it performs. And we don't really need to do phase 1 because VCO is grass, so there's no safety issue. PCHRD has funded 2 clinical studies, which are, well, they involve 60 patients and 60 controls, so a total of about 100 to 120 patients, both controls and the treatment group. One on mild COVID positive individuals and another in hospital setting. So that's a good start, but certainly we would appreciate more participation in terms of doing more phase 2 studies. And hopefully, phase 3 could be something which ICC can participate in, because we want to have a multinational or international clinical studies which use the same protocol. It's more convincing if several countries do the same thing, and so that information doesn't come from only one country. So those are the randomized clinical trials, and we have draft procedures on how to do the clinical trials, the RCTs. Now, I'd like to share with you the second way in which you can participate, and this would be what I call documented intervention treatment. What I'm showing on the screen is the Cebu Provincial Detention and Rehabilitation Center. So it's a jail located in Cebu City. What happened here, to make a long story short, is that there was an outbreak of COVID-19 among the inmates, and the warden invited a doctor, an integrative doctor, to use VCO on their patients, in fact, on their guards as well. So I came in to assist them, and what we did was to set up the protocol and to make sure that the data were gathered well as have informed consent and all of that. This is a sample of the monitoring sheet that we prepared, so it's quite detailed. Each patient would have their data sheet when they were tested and their other conditions, what they were fed and so forth. There was the nurse of the jail filled this out. And here there were 20 inmates. We wrote this up in a small article by Dr. Mondehar, who was the doctor from Cebu City, and I helped him put the report together. Now, the summary of this intervention study is given here. There were 20 inmate patients confirmed to be COVID-19 positive using PCR. They exhibited mild symptoms, 17 males and 3 females. Day 1, after they tested positive, they were given supportive treatment. And sometime during this period, Dr. Mondehar was invited by the warden to come in. So the VCO treatment did not start until day 14. When they did the second PCR sampling, 17 of the 20 were already tested negative. By day 28, another PCR sampling was done. 19 out of 20 tested negative. And day 38, the last patient who remained positive was a 70-year-old inmate. Anyway, by day 38, everyone was negative. Now the jail has continued to give VCO to their inmates, and since then they have not had any incidents of COVID-19. The guards and employees who also tested positive also underwent the treatment, and we have data to show that they how they recovered from the COVID-19. So that's a brief description of the VCO Solidarity Studies. Again, there are two activities that we'd like to invite you to participate in. Either a randomized clinical trial, which is usually a hospital-based study, and the second would be to document intervention treatment on COVID positive subjects. So on that note, I'd like to thank everyone for your attention. So we do need coconut oil to save the world, and thank you. And hopefully, we will get interested people to join the study. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Toby. There will be an opportunity to have a discussion, but there are a couple more things to be said before the discussion. In the interest of time, I would like to invite Dr. Pons Batugal to present some remarks now on the pertinent issues during this meeting. So Dr. Pons Batugal is maybe known to most of the delegates. He is a senior researcher who's been in the CGIAR system for many, many years. He was also of the 9 or so Cogent coordinators, I would argue one of the most successful in terms of managing to mobilize the resources for successful coconut projects. May I now hand over to Pons Batugal. Thank you.
The Honorable Ministers of Agriculture, Trade and Industry of the 20 member countries, the plenipotentiary and national liaison officer of the member countries, the representatives from the private sector and from the academia and farmer organizations and coconut lovers around the world. Happy World Coconut Day. My presentation, this is not the one. Can you put my presentation on the screen? Okay. It's about the strategic plan in the international coconut community and the way forward. What are the activities we are doing to implement the strategic plan? I'd like to mention that in the beginning, we debated whether we should prepare a roadmap which will only tell you where you are going and what would you like to be when you reach your destination as a roadmap, or prepare a strategic plan which will tell you how you are going and the ways by which you're going to reach your destination. So what I'm going to present, if you could present this slide. Anyway, just to continue before this slide appears, we are at the crossroads where coconut is in high demand, especially the high value products. And while the market is expanding at exponential rate, production is going down. And this is due to the fact that a lot of our coconuts, from 20 to 50%, depending on the country, is senile with declining productivity. Next slide, please. So based on the vision and mission, which would consist of the roadmap, the vision is to improve the socioeconomic welfare of farmers and other stakeholders in a vibrant coconut sector. And the mission of ICC is 5-fold. These are to develop the coconut sector through its member countries, They increase the productivity to improve farming systems that are environmentally sustainable, to promote product diversification and maintain high-quality products that are acceptable to consumers, to encourage market research and promotion activities, and to assist countries to address trade-related issues, and facilitate activities for training, capacity building, and technology transfer. Next slide, please. This is the present situation, which was the anchor area for our strategic plan. Most of coconut farmers are smallholders, that's 96%. They are tending only 1 to 2 hectares on the average. They are earning about $400 per hectare per year from copra, which is the lowest price product and where the price is unstable. In many cases, the coconut farmer does not own the land that he tills. He is not bankable by the formal banking sector. Many of them don't have access to technology, capital, and market, and they have low productivity and profitability. And in our survey 3 years ago, we found out that if the coconut farmer does not earn more, he does not want to plant more coconut. And you could see this happening, conversion of coconut lands into other crops that are more profitable, even into real estate for housing and so forth, because the coconut farmer doesn't earn enough. The processing industry equally have many challenges. The raw materials are lacking, and more so in the next 5 to 10 years, when our coconuts become more senile. Many factories are operating below capacity. Senile palms need to be replanted urgently. In fact, we need to replant 700 million seedlings yesterday, not tomorrow, yesterday. That's the deficit that we have. Otherwise, we will lose the coconut industry to the younger and more profitable, as of now, vegetable crops of the world. But replanting, although we want to do it, is constrained by the lack of high-quality planting materials, and we have to remedy this. Organic coconut certification is too expensive, and freight cost also is expensive, and in many cases not competitive. And there are negative campaigns against coconut oil, which I will discuss later on. This is the present situation. The ICC is confronted with what can we do to address this, either individually in the respective countries or collectively as a community. Next slide, please. This is the world coconut situation. You could see market is expanding. In some cases, about 5 of our high-value products are increasing in market demand from 30 to 50% per year for the last 5 years. But production is going down because of senility of trees and many natural and man-made calamities and decreasing yield as a result. The next slide, please. The ideal situation is where the market and production are congruent so that we have enough raw materials to supply the processing factories that will produce the high-value products that will be marketed. And this can be done through the use of high-yielding resistant varieties and through the use of science-based and productive technologies. Next slide, please. This is the challenge confronting all of us. The farmer is poor, is not earning enough, and has low farm productivity and profitability. That is the reason. The processing industry has inadequate raw materials, and many are operating below capacity. And the coconut industry sustainability is threatened, not only by the aging coconut trees, but also by natural and man-made calamities. Next, please. So what can we do This is a formula that we developed to help address the needs of the coconut farmer and the industry. For example, it's a 7-point agenda that we are trying to address through projects that ICC is developing for itself, for the countries, as well as for donors. If we can increase the yields from current 50 fruits per tree per year to about 150 and even to 300 fruits per tree per year, if we can optimize or reduce the cost of production, then we'll have a higher net profit for the farmer. One example is the continuous production of coconut without replacing the nutrients that are absorbed by the coconut tree from the soil, resulting in declining productivity. Because our farmers would like to produce organic coconut because there is a premium for organic coconut equivalent to up to 20%. But coconut farmers cannot afford expensive chemical fertilizers, so they produce organic fertilizer without applying any fertilizer by default because they cannot afford. And therefore, the yields are declining because the coconut extract huge amounts of nutrients which need to be replaced. So we have to arrest yield decline. We have to reduce field losses so that we can increase the yield and prevent the losses due to pests and diseases. We have to reduce post-harvest losses so that whatever we produce, they are not destroyed in the warehouse or they are not left behind to produce low quality products. We have to obtain a fair market price for the products that are produced by the farmer so that he gets a higher net income. And last two, we have to make coconut farming socially acceptable. Whatever we introduce as intervention should not run counter to the customs and traditions of people. In fact, it should enhance the customs and traditions of people so that whatever we introduce would be acceptable. And 7, not the least, is we should make our farmers' practices environmentally safe so that it should not destroy, but rather enhance the environment. If we can do all of this through technologies, strategies, and policies, then I'm sure we'll be able to advance the coconut industry and make the farmer very happy. Next, please. How do you increase the yields? This is a survey that my foundation conducted in 2017. We surveyed what is the traditional yield of coconut varieties that are now being grown, and this more or less averages 50 fruits per tree per year, except in the case of India, which says 100 fruits per tree per year, mainly because the Indian coconut farmer takes care of his coconut very well like a baby, and I admire them for that. And also because, partly because the varieties of India produce smaller fruits compared to the other countries. And smaller fruits usually produce more number of fruits, bigger fruits usually produce less number of fruits. But the big advantage of India is the farmers take care of the coconut very, very well. But if you use hybrids, you could see that in the Philippines, India, Sri Lanka, and Ivory Coast, they claim that they could increase the yield by 3 times, from 50 to 150. And if you use hybrids plus modern technologies, which are good agricultural practices, including fertigation, you can increase the yield by 5 times or 6 times in the case of Sri Lanka and Ivory Coast. So this is one way of increasing the yields and the productivity on-farm income of the farmer. So what are we waiting for? We should try to pilot this and see how we can adapt to various countries using what we call doable, science-based affordable and sustainable technologies, strategies, and policies. So this is increasing on-farm income. We are also developing projects that will help coconut farmer families, the wife and unemployed children, to increase the off-farm income, the income outside of the farm in their various homes and small and medium enterprises. So if we combine the income from the on-farm and off-farm, we can practically double the income of the coconut farmers. So I repeat the question, what are we waiting for? Next slide, please. This is the example of the dwarfs and the hybrids that are producing 150 to 400 fruits per tree per year. And this is one of the things that we could aim at in breeding for high-yielding varieties and hybrids. And this is aided by the establishment of the International Coconut Gene Banks by ICC, which is managing now in 5 host countries, which include Indonesia, India, Papua New Guinea, Brazil, and Cote d'Ivoire in Africa. Next, please. What can we do now to implement the strategic plan? And what can we do to develop the coconut sector through member countries? I'd like to explain that the international coconut community is not going to do the role of the coconut member countries. It's going to assist them through various ways. For example, technical assistance to member countries, which could include the coconut industry status assessment, developing project proposals in collaboration with the interested country, introducing important projects that could help them improve their yield and farm productivity. Number 2, ICC provide information through the COCOTEC meetings, and the next COCOTEC meeting, which is every 2 years, will be held in Malaysia next year. And we invite all participants who are attending the seminar and their officers to attend through webinars such as this one. ICC is going to have webinars periodically until December this year, and we'd like to invite you to participate. It will be announced through publications, to the COCO Info International, to the Cord Technical Journal, and other publications. We also help the countries through the international training course for coconut development officers, which we offer in collaboration with Sri Lanka, and it is offered every year. It's a 2-month course where coconut development officer will learn modern production and processing technologies. This is one way of jump-starting your coconut program, because a lot of the officers who have attended this course testify to the effectiveness of this course in helping them do a better job in the various organizations where they work for. The 4th intervention is the research and training on product diversification and quality standard. As you are aware, a lot of people are now producing high-value products because the income is 5 to 10 times the income from the standard copra product. And we do research and dissemination of the research result to help maintain quality standards, because right now we could sell to almost every country that demands it, but in the near future, only those with high quality standards will remain in the business. So it's important that we train as many people in the ICC. The 5th is market information and product promotion. We sponsor exhibitions and exchanges of information between farmers, researchers, equipment manufacturers, and processors. And we arrange business matching in many of these promotion activities. 6, we help the countries address the negative campaign against coconut oil. As you are aware, we are criticized even for using monkeys to harvest coconut, which is not true in many of the countries that export coconut products, and to conduct clinical studies to show the goodness of the coconut, such as the studies being undertaken by the group of Dr. Deirit to demonstrate the efficacy of virgin coconut oil against diabetes, cardiovascular disease, Alzheimer, and other health hazards. Number 7, we work with networks. We have the International Coconut Gene Bank, which is hosted by 5 regional hosts, 1 in India, 1 in Indonesia, in Papua New Guinea for the South Pacific, Brazil, and Ivory Coast. And ICC now manages the COGEN, which is the International Coconut Gene Bank network, with 39 member countries. This is a major program of ICC. And we also have networks on IPM, Integrated Pest Management, Tissue Culture Coconut Oil Forum. Number 8, we collaborate with regional alliance and coalitions for the coconut. We have the South Pacific Commission. We have a collaborative program having been submitted to us for discussion now. This consists of 22 member countries. The Alliance for the Caribbean Coconut Sector, which consists of about 11 countries. We are discussing now collaboration with the Coconut Coalition for the Americas, which consists of about 10 buyers and traders of coconut. And we are exploring collaborating and establishing coalitions for Latin America, Central and South America, and with Africa. The next one, I think that's the last slide. I'd like to thank you. If we can all do this in the next 5 years, which is the scope of our strategic plan from 2020 to 2024, I'm sure we could accelerate the development of the coconut industry and make the coconut farmer not only profitable, but also very, very happy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Batugal, for your overview of the ICC strategy. Finally, before the discussion, we have one more presentation. It's very important, ICC's role in bridging the public and private sectors. And we're very delighted to welcome the Chief Executive Officer of Tom Kokocha from Indonesia, it's a company that produces briquette, charcoal briquettes from coconut. So over to you for the final presentation. Thank you, Asep.
Thanks, Vincent, for the time. Good morning, good day, good afternoon, good night for all of us, all the excellencies, the honorable, all the important people on coconut industry, all the stakeholders on coconut industry, the traders, farmer, especially which I'm proud of, all the coconut heroes who keep on spirit to build all the coconut sector until this coconut on this level. And for sure, we will keep move on together until this coconut really save the world. I have been engaged in this charcoal business since 1998. So it's mean I already 22 years in this business. Yeah. So Stephen, so Vincent, I really from the darkness, from the black world. Yeah. So believe me, Vincent, the money is nice. Okay. So with this long experience, of course, I don't want to make story on this my presentation. Yeah, because my long experience is much more than enough to make true story about this business, which I want to share to all of you on this beautiful moment. So my today's presentation, the title of my today's presentation is Save the World by Coconut Charcoal. So what's going on with the coconut charcoal? Next slide, please. Ladies and gentlemen, charcoal is the smallest part of coconut product. From the whole coconut shell is the smallest part. Yeah, So only around 16%. Yeah, that's why as the producer of this coconut charcoal, we really depend on the producer of copra or the oil producer. Yeah, because for this purpose, we cannot buy the whole coconut only to get the charcoal because only 60%. So we will get suffering where there is no copra producer anymore. That's the point. Yeah. Okay, next slide. But even, yeah, this coconut charcoal is the smallest part of this coconut. Yeah. We have very strategic position. Yeah. This product has very strategic position on coconut economic diplomacy. Yeah. Especially to avoid black campaigns about the coconut product. What is the strategic position of this coconut charcoal briquette? The first, of course, coconut charcoal is the healthiest source of bioenergy. Nothing to be done. The second, of course, this good news for us, especially Indonesian people, yeah, because this time currently Indonesia is the largest and the best producer of sisa charcoal briquette, yeah, in the world, yeah. Because if we talk about charcoal briquette industry in Indonesia, more than 95%, we are the producer briquette charcoal for sisa or hookah purpose. Just for your information, sisa is the traditional smoking of Middle East people, but this time already become the new style of life worldwide. Yeah. So even our biggest export now, not to Middle East, but to Europe. Yeah. And number three, of course, this is very important for us. Yeah. That coconut charcoal has very strategic position. Yeah. In coconut economy diplomacy. Yeah. Because of its effective role in shaping and protect the world forest. Yeah, it's very important. So far, we didn't care about this one, but it's very important because we really can save the world, yeah, to avoid forest from destruction. Yeah, the next slide, please. Now, what is the story behind the success of this market, yeah, of the coconut charcoal in the global market? Why coconut charcoal? The first, of course, because the human increasingly care about environment, exploitation of the energy that destroy the nature, just waiting for the time. Everything will be end or be stopped. Yeah, like we know the source of energy this time, like steam coal, yeah, like wood charcoal, yeah, everything will be stopped. Stopped because of the fossil finish or because of the regulation, because it's really destroying the world. Yeah. Okay, the next, the number two. Number two, continuously use of coal, it means steam coal and wood charcoal will only worsen environmental damage and global warming. This is another reason. Next, number three, of course, then we need the best alternative energy whose existence does not damage our Earth planet. And the answer on number four. Next, please. And the answer is coconut charcoal is the most environmentally friendly renewable product. That's why this market become rapidly increased, yeah, in this moment. Next slide, please. This one, the derivative product of coconut charcoal, as we know, coconut charcoal will be produced, become activated carbon, and also hundreds of use of this activated carbon, yeah. And also this could be used like for mining. Not too many people knows that the best tool to catch the metal, the gold from the mud, this is activated carbon from coconut charcoal. But of course, I will more focus to my product, charcoal briquette. So the charcoal briquette this time could be used for barbecue and also for sisa or hookah purpose, yeah. And some other also for alternative of bioenergy. But this time, all industrial of briquette in Indonesia all focus to sisa and hookah purpose. The next. This some use of the coconut charcoal briquette I already mentioned. On the next slide, please. Now, why this coconut charcoal is very rapidly increased on the market? What is the superiority of coconut charcoal? Yeah, or coconut charcoal briquette compared to other briquettes like steam coal, wood, etc. Yeah, because number one, of course, it's very high calorie. It's very high calorie. Yeah. Number two, long lasting, because 1 cube for charcoal sisa could be used until 2 hours. Yeah, it's very long lasting. What else for barbecue purpose is longer. Yeah. Number 3, of course, environmentally friendly, because to produce this charcoal, yeah, we don't need to cut the trees. As you know, we only produce from the garbage, from the waste of coconut industry. Yeah. This is very important to convince the market, because now our duty is replacing all the wood charcoal in the world, which very huge market, yeah, very huge quantity. This is our duty, yeah. And number 4, of course, this charcoal, coconut charcoal, is the best alternative energy, low sulfur and very safe for health. This is what for human being, we only can use coconut charcoal products. The next slide, please. I always call this coconut charcoal briquette as for safe, yeah. Safe product, of course, as specification as the best as charcoal. Safe business, I will explain to you later. Safe for health, of course, it's very health, for health purpose, it's very safe. And safe for environmental, I also will explain by detail later. Next slide, please. This is what I explained to you earlier. This time, thanks to God, Indonesia is the king of briquette charcoal for sisa purpose. Yeah, we are the largest producer of the charcoal. Yeah, because the quality of coconut shell of Indonesia currently is the best. Yeah, I already tried some charcoal from India. Even some India's industry also already come to our factory, but until this time they cannot make it. Yeah, they only can produce the charcoal for barbecue, not for sisa. I also has been tried the charcoal from some African country, but so far also we cannot use for sisa purpose. So thanks to God, now Indonesia is one of the biggest country as the producer of coconut charcoal for the sisa and hookah purpose. Next slide, please. Of course, this is the most important thing. Yeah, what is the superiority of coconut shell charcoal briquette from the business overview? Yeah, it's very important. Yeah. The first, demand of market of this product is bigger than supply. Yeah, what kind of business like this? Yeah, usually like Mr. Pon said that our market of this coconut product is rapidly increased. Yeah, and the demand of this market also bigger than supply. Usually people when create the business must be very difficult to get the market or headache to find the market. But in this product, the market, we have the waiting list of buyer. Yeah, next please. Very resistant. This business also very resistant from the global economic crisis. You can imagine, yeah. I start this business in 1998, so I passed all the economic crisis in the world, yeah. Even the biggest crisis of economy on 1998, when all countries in Asia got this big crisis, but all charcoal businessmen like me just smiling, yeah. And if you still remember, last 2018 also, yeah, the big crisis hit many countries. Even the prestigious business, the most prestigious business in the world, like oil and gas and mining industry collapsed, but we still access. And now it's also proof on the pandemic of Corona, once all the countries almost collapsed, all the business directly impact, but we keep smiling. Yeah, even this COVID Corona, our requirement is increased rapidly. Yeah, this a fantastic business, I can say to you. Next, please. The typical of the market of this product also sustainable and even addicted. Yeah, so people burn and buy again, burn and buy again. Yeah, because in modern big countries, in the modern countries, in big industrial countries like barbecue and sisa. Now, like barbecue become the consumer good. People always need it, yeah, always need it. Buy again, and buy again, never stop. This is very typical, like you have the cigarette factory, yeah. So even the cigarette increase, let's say 20 times, the smoker will never stop the smoke. Yeah, even the price increase 20 times or even more. Yeah, this is the typical of market. Yeah, the next please. This product also still pre-market and price. It means until this time, there is no single organization, there is no single country who arrange, yeah, who make regulation for this product. So still pre-market, and we hope, of course, forever like this. So like for sisa purpose, we are Indonesia, we can make the price, we can as the price maker for this product. Yeah, thanks to God. So this still not included yet in the commodity exchange market. The next, please. This product also durable, no expired date of this product. So beautiful, because if other product maybe, especially as consumption product, must be there is expired date. But for this product, there is no expired date. Could be 1 year, 5 year, 10 year, no expired date. Yeah, and you can sell out, yeah, all this product even, or they take long time on the storage. The next, please. And the last, of course, this business, this product is an effective and productive foreign exchange machine. Yeah, because 100% local content and 100% export. Next, please. That was from the business overview. Now I want to explain you how this product could be Save the World. We initiate to make this program since last 2 years, Save the World by coconut charcoal. It means stop cutting trees for charcoal purpose and use the coconut charcoal to save our planet. What is the reason behind this program? Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Save the World by coconut charcoal. Before coconut charcoal entered the global market, people all around the world still depends on the use of wood charcoal in all their activities, including barbecue and sisa. This is causally the hard demand of wood charcoal to fulfill these needs. Countless number of trees were cut down and made to charcoal. As the result, the forests were destroyed, and furthermore can cause the destruction of the world's ecosystem. This is the reason. Next, please. The presence of coconut charcoal briquette in global market, which slowly replacing and reducing the use of global wood charcoal briquette for barbecue and sisa purposes, this coconut charcoal product has indirectly reduced the cutting and destruction of the world forest. Because with thousands of tons of coconut charcoal briquette we export, that means we have saved so many hectares of forest from damage and extinction. Why? I always connecting the charcoal the charcoal only to barbecue and sisa, because as we know, to build the house, now we can avoid to use wood. Yeah. For furnishing, we can avoid to use wood. As you know, sorry to say, now China can make everything. We can they can make the fake furnishing. They can make the fake wood for building, for furnishing. But until this time, no one of countries can make fake charcoal. Yeah. So it's mean the cutting down of trees for charcoal purpose still will be increased. This is our duty to replace all this market, because the market already knew, especially in modern country, in big industrial country, they actually already aware about these things, but they're waiting for the substitution. They're waiting for us. Yeah, that's why the market is bigger, because our duty to replace all the big quantity of wood charcoal in the global market. Next, please. The Save World by Coconut Charcoal is a movement program that we initiate because the tremendous impact of this coconut charcoal briquette on saving the environment from forest destruction. So this program needs to be encouraged by all ICC member countries. So then all the modern countries ultimately see the need to have coconut countries and developing coconut plantation and its industries in the form of measurable incentive, because this program is in line with Kyoto Protocol. Yeah. So if you still remember, with Kyoto Protocol on 2008 in Japan, where all the leaders of the countries signed together there, one of the clauses of this Kyoto Protocol is that the modern countries, the big industrial countries, must pay, like to the countries who has the forest, to the country who has the forest, who produce the oxygen, who produce the oxygen for world consumption. So it's like, let's say, the big country buy the oxygen to subtropical or tropical countries who produce the oxygen. And by this program, by these coconut countries, we with fact that we save the forest. So why not we also propose the same things like them? So if did, of course, this only can could be done by the G2G, not by businessmen like me. So it means I want to encourage all the ICC member, yeah. That is big opportunity because this time we know even for planting of coconut in all coconut member countries, the problem is cost, yeah. I think all countries this time, while the planting of coconut in all coconut countries is very late. The problem is cost. Who knows? Yeah, if we could be convinced other big country, they also could be participate because this directly save the world, save the forest. Yeah, that's what I mean on this program because you can imagine how beautiful, how green this world if no other people, no any more people cutting the trees, no more people use the wood charcoal. Yeah, so we'll be green and how easy to get oxygen. Yeah. For us and for our next generation. Next slide, please. Ladies and gentlemen, this is my rough calculation, yeah, to make you deeply more understand about this program that we could be used for a counter or negative campaigns about coconut product. The rough calculation, let's say 1 meter cubic of wood, you could be yield around 90 kilogram of wood charcoal, yeah. So if one tree around 5 meter cubic wood, it could be yield around 450 kilogram wood charcoal per trees. So if we assume that 1 hectare of forest consists of 400 trees, it could be yield around 180 tons of wood charcoal. Let's say like Indonesia this time, if Indonesia export 10,000 of coconut charcoal every month, so we easy to say that we save 55 hectare forest from the massive destruction every month. Yeah, you can imagine if all coconut countries, all ICC member countries export more and more this product, more forest could be saved by this product. Yeah, it's in line with this protocol of Kyoto, like I mentioned to you. Yeah, I want to explain the sample to you. One of country in Europe, I don't want to say the country names. Yeah. They need only for barbecue in 1 year around 240,000 tons of barbecue charcoal. But this time still fulfilled by coconut wood charcoal. Oh, sorry, by wood charcoal. It means every year to fulfill this market, only one country, yeah, we need cut around 1,600 hectares of forest. You can imagine the destruction, yeah, and which could be saved this only our coconut charcoal. Yeah. Next slide, please. This is a rough calculation about the potential of Indonesian coconut charcoal. Yeah. So from the data of IPPC, and now we call ICC, on 2018, Indonesia had around 15 billion nut of coconut. So if divided by 6, then we have around 2.5 billion kilogram of coconut shell. Divided by 4, then we have potential 625 million kilogram of charcoal. Then time by 0.8, we have potential, yeah, 500 million kilogram of briquette. If we assume as $1 per kg, so it means we have potential income from this charcoal only from this garbage of coconut, yeah, around $500 million a year. So it's big enough for the countries and for all of us, I think. Also same, I think, for all the member countries have the same potential because so many, yeah, opportunity this time for this business, and especially if together, yeah, we promote this benefit of the charcoal, that it could be really save the world from destruction, from the global warming, for the massive destruction of the forest. I think it will be the best for us, yeah. But of course, it needs to be supported by the government because the businessmen like us, the private sector, we only can do this as the tool of promotion to get the market. But we did, and all succeed, yeah, to get the market. But how it also could become positive things for the government, especially to get incentive from the big countries, yeah, to give the incentive to the coconut countries, like I explained before. This, I think, ladies and gentlemen, what I want to share with you. Yeah, thank you very much for all attention. And Vincent, I give it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Asep, for that very interesting presentation and very important to know that we can rely on coconuts to fix carbon and help to offset the tree felling by using coconut-based charcoal. Now I'm afraid we're already over time, but for those of you who want to stay, we have allotted some time for discussion, and so far there are 10 or so different comments and questions in the chat. So I'm going to start off from the top. Murali Gopal from ICAR CPCRI in Kasaragod was asking whether or not we've been countering the negative publicity of coconut cultivation affecting the biodiversity compared to oil palm. It's been mentioned a little while. Just to say that ICC has already prepared and submitted a riposte or a rebuttal to the negative publicity that's coming from the oil palm industry about the impact of biodiversity and also on cruelty to monkeys. So we are addressing that. We can discuss that later. Murali, would you like to add, Gopal, would you like to say anything else before I move on to the next question? You can unmute yourself. Maybe he's gone. Okay, so then Henki Novarianto, who is well known to many of you, has a question for Dr. Newport or indeed Dr. Dayrit. Virgin VCO have the same composition and ordinary coconut oil and percent of fatty acids, including medium triglycerides or lauric acid. He believes that VCO is antiviral, bacterial, or fungal. His question is, are the microelements, do they have an important role in the reaction of medium chain triglycerides to microbes, such as tocopherol or others? If only tocopherol, what different people use coconut oils and eat other foods with high vitamins, that is high vitamin E. Maybe Dr. Dayrit, if you're still there, you could respond to Henki's question. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the question. Among the minor constituents, it's mainly the phenols, which have been studied, quantified, and you know, some claims have been made that processes which have higher levels of phenols have better activity. But I guess depends on how you analyze it. Some of the analysis might include the tocopherols as well, but it's mainly the phenols among the minor constituents that have been studied for, you know, for their beneficial properties.
Thank you. And then the next is that there's another. Sorry, Henki, does that answer your question? Henki, are you still there?
Yes.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I only want to know what far different the virgin coconut oil and coconut oil, because according to the people, VCO not heated up than 60%. And I know the composition and content of the fatty acid is the same VCO and coconut oil. And then if we saw the oil palm, kernel oil palm is the same too. But why only VCO effective for to attack the disease like virus and etc. Maybe some micro, but how the role of the micro element? That's my question. Thank you.
Well, well, the microelements have not been studied as much. Now regarding VCO and coconut oil, the fatty acid profile is generally the same. So the fatty acid profile would probably be more affected by the age of the nut as well as the variety.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Dayrit.
Okay, thank you.
So then the next The next comment is also from Henki to Dr. Pons Batugel. You mentioned the market demand of any kind of coconut product is increasing, but the production of coconuts is decreasing every year. So Henki is suggesting a strategy to collaborate with the integrated coconut processing or coconut agribusiness between coconut industries or the private sector and coconut farmers community. However, up until now, this has been difficult to realize. So although the market demand is increasing, the production of nuts is still decreasing because coconut farmers' income is low. So maybe, Pons, you'd just like to comment on that, please. Pons, could you unmute yourself, please?
Yeah, the strategy is to help coconut farmers produce and sell high-value products, mindful that they have to meet quality standards. And therefore, this is the challenge for the research community. How can we help farmers and their families produce some of the high-value products that they are capable of? For example, coconut sugar can be produced by the households. And the new product, which is 3 times more profitable than coconut sugar, called aminos or the coconut sauce, can be produced also at the household. The intermediary product, which is coconut syrup. So you cook the coconut sap into coconut syrup, and from coconut syrup, it goes to aminos or coconut sugar. So instead of selling the coconut sap, coconut farmer families can be encouraged to produce coconut syrup because they can earn more money by selling that, as an example. There are many high-value products that can be produced at the household level, and this is what we should encourage so that the farmer will earn more money compared to just being a supplier of raw material. I don't know if I answered Henki's question.
I think in the interests of time, we'll carry on with, because there are about 7 or 8 more comments in the chat. So the next one is for Dr. Deirit from Dr. Hebar. I'm not sure where Dr. Hebar is from, but the doctor is asking why was the VCO administered to COVID-19 patients 14 days after their detection, and why not on the first day, Dr. Deirit?
Oh, well, that was the result. I mean, this is the situation. It wasn't planned as a study. So the COVID inmates were discovered, and it was a week after that that they invited the medical doctor to come in. So it was not planned from the start. So that's why there was a 2-week delay. But then if we're prepared, then you can actually do it from day 1. But then that means you need to have prepared the availability of the patients, as well as the availability of the VCO and all of the other, the medical staff, etc.
Yes, and indeed you'd need to have a control of giving...
Well, no, there's no control because this is not this is an intervention.
Yes.
The control you would have in a clinical study.
Indeed, yes. Okay, so then the next one, I haven't typed in the question a bit. They're saying their lab has developed a farmer-friendly coconut biomass residue recycling technology through vermicomposting, composting and biochar production to rejuvenate the exhausted soils of the coconut garden. I think this is from Sri Lanka. Their team is also combining recycled manures with microbials to improve soil health and fertility. This would be helpful to improve coconut production with low input technologies, as Dr. Batugel was mentioning in his presentation. What we need to do now is to popularize these kinds of technologies around the different coconut growing countries. Pons, perhaps you'd like to comment on that.
Yes, that's absolutely true. Coconut farmers cannot afford expensive inputs. So we are advocating in some areas where it is feasible to go organic by using cover cropping. A special cover crop called Mucuna bractata can fix up to 200 kilos of nitrogen per hectare per year from the air into the soil. And that's will save you cost of nitrogen fertilizer. We also have the mycorrhiza fungus. We now have in the Philippines a concoction of 12 races in one concoction, which when applied to the soil increases the cation exchange capacity of the soil, meaning the plants will absorb residual nutrients already in the soil more effectively. And then we also have a very cheap soil ameliorant called Bioudal that contains 14 macro and micronutrients compared to the complete fertilizer, which contains only 3, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And this is much cheaper, and you apply only once every 5 years. And then the coconut husk has high potassium content. As you know, potassium is needed for flowering and fruiting. And if you apply that, it has 8% potassium, and it can absorb water 8 times its volume. So this is the formula for organic production of coconut, which is science-based, doable, affordable. We should encourage this for farmers who cannot afford high cost of inputs.
Thank you very much for that reply. The next comment or question was from Edison Jambormias. How is the genetic variation status of VCO content, such as lauric acid and other important compounds? Is it possible to select varieties with better VCO quality? Maybe I will ask that to Pons and otherwise hand over to to Toby Dairies. Pons?
Yeah, okay. The Philippine Coconut Authority has analyzed its germplasm collection in Zamboanga, and they have found that many of the hybrids and varieties have higher medium chain triglyceride. And some varieties also have higher VCO output or production compared to the others. So there is variation in the genetic diversity that we can take advantage of to produce higher levels of VCO. And there are also evidence that some varieties have higher levels of coconut sap, which can produce higher production of coconut sugar. So genetic diversity is very important, and we should take advantage of that.
Maybe I could add something here. In between 2016 and 2018, the UK government financed biodiversity and the coconut community from the Darwin Initiative to identify climate-threatened and conserve climate-threatened coconut diversity in Samoa, Fiji, and PNG. It cut short the grant, so we weren't able to finish all of the prospecting for the diversity. But what we did do is, partly because of the hospitality of Samoa, we were able to do a characterization workshop of germplasm. And part of that characterization has added some new quality descriptors. And I think that's important to use that kind of protocol to characterize the diversity of elements such as VCO and MTCs. And we will be publishing that work within the next, well, by the end of this year. Toby, would you like to add anything before we move on to the next question?
No, nothing to add.
And
okay, so then the next question.
Maybe Vincent, excuse me, maybe Ramon Rivera is still around.
Oh, I beg your pardon, yes. Ramon, would you like to say a few words about what the PCA is doing? Maybe he's not on.
Oh, yes. Hello.
Okay, fine. Hello. Go ahead.
Wait. Can I get the question again?
Well, we're just talking about the idea of different varieties or cultivars of coconut having higher levels of either medium chain triglycerides or indeed higher levels of virgin coconut oil? Thank you.
We did a study in terms of identifying varieties for virgin coconut oil. It's still not published, but we found out that using this cold process method, we can get a very good quality of virgin coconut oil. One is with very high tocopherol, vitamin E. However, the yield is quite low. So in terms of yield, it's quite low. So the centrifuge method is still the best. We identified dwarf, tall, and hybrid varieties that are very good for the production of virgin coconut oil. Now, during this pandemic, I was asked by the Philippine Coconut Authority to send samples of virgin coconut oil to the main office because of the ongoing trials with PGH, UPPGH, and DOST. So they want to have a backup of supplies of virgin coconut oil that will really pass based on the Philippine National Standard. So we send them through C-130 samples of our virgin coconut oil, and it really passed the standard. So that's it.
So in that case, will we be able to have access to a list of cultivars which are higher in oil or MTC once you...
Yes, it's available. We have not published the paper. We want to publish it at court, no? Our in ICC, together with also varieties good for virgin coconut oil, cocoa sugar, and also the makapuno, no? And it's there. We have brochures, no, circulating in the Philippines with this kind of information.
Vincent, may I add 1 minute, less than 1 minute?
Carry on. Yes, carry on.
Yes, relating with the coconut variety, we in Indonesia, the AARD, our institute in Manado, we ever analyze the content of oil and then the composition and the content of fatty acid. And we found from the dwarf, tall, and the hybrid, there are some different, like Pons and Ramon say. And then we analyze to the coconut, the same variety grow in 80 meters from sea level compared to the 450 meters of the sea. There are some difference among the variety or cultivar and among the near the seashore or inland, but not more than 5%. Thank you.
Yes, so there is a slight G by E, genetics by genotype by environment into.
Yes, I believe it's more of the interaction of the genes and the environment.
It looks
so
like it, yes.
A very good environment will really provide good expression of the trait. Thank
you. Okay, so then the next question is from Mifta Harachman. It's a suggestion to ASEP, other alternatives to save the world by using stoves, charcoal burning stoves with coconut charcoal as a replacement for either fossil fuels or normally felling other trees. I think that's quite an obvious and important example of how we could improve that in other parts of the world. But of course, not all areas of the world have access in remote rural communities to coconut charcoal. Maybe ASEP, you'd like to comment?
Yeah, I think it's depend to the customer. If customer want to use for the replacement of the bio energy to replacement of fossil energy, it's no problem. Yeah, so it could be used for everything. Yeah, But of course, yeah, I just mentioned the two product purposes because only for these two product purposes cannot supply. Yeah, so it's mean if the customer also want to use this for stove, like for replacement of fossil energy, also no problem at all. It's mean how big this market is available. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anybody else want to comment on that before I move on? No, actually, we haven't really got time, so.
Yes.
Yes, carry on. Yes.
Yes. My name is Alamsyah from
Yes.
Indonesia.
Yes.
A simple recommendation. Mr. Asep said in one side, charcoal can save the deforestation, save the forest from environment. But in other side, when people use sisa, like smoking, so it can affect the human body health. So it's a little bit contradictory. So is it possible to replace the markets, some part of market, to the biofuel use, something like that? I have your response, Mr. Asep. Thank you.
Would you like to respond to that market replacement with biofuels?
Of course, no problem. Yes, since the beginning, as the charcoal industry producer since 1998, we produce beginning with the charcoal for barbecue purpose, yeah. But finally, when the customer use it for sisa purpose, it's not our mistake, yeah. Because even we not produce for sisa purpose, yeah, people will keep use wood charcoal. It's unhealthy charcoal for this purpose, yeah. And the proposal of Mr. Rizal, why not use this for fuel? I'm businessman, man. I must choose the highest value products, yeah. If for fuel is half price for sisa purpose, why I should choose the fuel, yeah? Because even I don't use this for sisa product, people we cannot stop smoking because I'm not produce the charcoal, yeah. This I think logic business, yeah, logic business. Because for fuel could be produced from others waste, not from coconut charcoal. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much. In the interest of time, I'm going to move on because some of our guests are beginning to want to leave. We have 2 or 3 more comments or questions here. The next one is from Niral in India. And again, this is probably for Asep rather. What is the difference between the grades of shell charcoal used for different purposes? And are there any industry standards available? Asep.
Yeah, actually, like I said to in my presentation, yeah, it's thanks to that at this time we are the biggest producer for the sisa charcoal because I'm not scientist, I'm not research on this purpose, yeah. But as I knew, especially on the color of the ash, yeah, this time I researched some sample of other countries, yeah, like the ash content all dark, even black, yeah. But the ash color from Indonesia this time is really white, yeah. What these people on the market love it, yeah. So about what is the content of in the cell is not my my capacity, I think, because I'm not a scientist and I never did the research on this one, yeah. So I only plotting this time one even sometime the coconut shell in Indonesia also change, yeah, depend on the climate light, yeah. Maybe sometime from the source today, let's say the ash color white, but next year it's become brown, yeah. I never do research. Maybe all scientists could be work on it, yeah, because it's also the interesting, yeah, to plotting the specification of the raw material. Thank you, Vincent.
Thank you. Just one comment to add, and that is Dr. Julian Biddle, who was working with a team at University of Queensland on the quality of shell charcoal. So maybe we can also get some information from her in terms of the scientific background. And then from the next one is a comment to Dr. Pons Batugal. You mentioned this is from BPT Sulut Jeffney Marcus Rawang. You mentioned there are 7 strategic steps to increase farmers' productivity, profitability and sustainability. And this question says highlights some others that need to be added, namely diversifying the integration of other plants in coconut plantation and diversifying coconut derivative products at high selling value. I think Prons may want to comment briefly, but we're running out of time. And just to say that we have actually submitted that proposal on this very subject of increasing or widening the biodiversity within coconut linked systems. Pons, would you like to respond briefly?
Yes, I agree with that. It should include intercropping, not only food crops, but also nitrogen fixing, agroforestry species, and other related diversity enhancing interventions to make this sustainable.
Thank you. And then there are two more comments here quickly from Mariette Pesireram. Wants to ask, again, this is for ASEP, whether the use of shell charcoal to make liquid smoke as a control of Aspergillus flavus fungus in nutmeg. So a smoker. Comment. You're muted, ASEP, you're muted. You're muted. Could you unmute yourself?
Of course, this liquid smoke is the additional product when you produce charcoal, yeah, and also to avoid the pollution, yeah. This good idea actually, but you still can use the charcoal, and you also can produce the liquid smoke, yeah. This when you do the burning of charcoal, you will get two products, yeah. The charcoal itself, liquid smoke, yeah. It could be also used for many purposes. So I think this is a good idea, because in Indonesia already so many farmers who burn the charcoal, who make the charcoal, they also produce the liquid smoke for many purposes. This is a good idea, so it's yeah, no problem with that. Thank you.
And then finally, from Gracian Carl Dankalan for Dr. David, which is the best VCO process in wet cold, the wet cold process or the dry cold process? In terms of being applicable for COVID-19 treatments. Thank you.
I don't think it makes a difference which process you use. In general, the choice of process really depends on the capitalization, how much money you're willing to invest, as well as the volume of the coconuts. But it really shouldn't matter which process you use.
Okay. Thank you very much. We haven't got time for any more comments now, really. We're already rather over by an hour. Thank you for those of you staying on. And in fact, at the high point, we had about 208 participants. So I'll hand over to Dr. Mridula Kotakati, the Assistant Executive Director of ICC, to make the final summing up. Thank you, Mridula.
Thank you, Vincent. First of all, I don't want to make my summary too long, because this is the end of our presentation and webinars. Respected Chairman ICC, National Liaison Officers from the member countries of ICC, all my coconut friends from different parts of the globe who are attending the webinar. First of all, I would like to wish all a very happy and safe World Coconut Day 2020. And my apologize for the technical disturbance happened in between, because ICC is organizing the first time this webinar, and we tried our level best to make the things possible. First, I would like to express my sincere and heartfelt compliments to the Honorable Minister Mua, Chairman ICC, for sharing his encouraging and motivating words to the community. Thank you, sir. You are always there to guide and support ICC in need, and presented a clear picture of global coconut scenario. Dr. P. Rathina, the former Executive Director, ICC, extended his warm wishes to ICC and the community on World Coconut Day. Thank you, sir, for always to be besides ICC and actively participating in the activities of ICC as an inspirer and motivator. Today, we heard the presentation from 4 of our renowned speakers who are very well experienced in the respective field of their work and well known to the coconut community. Dr. Mary Newport very precisely presented the health benefits of coconut oil and how the coconut oil helps to manage the Alzheimer's and other diseases. She explained the health benefits of VCO for the brain, the skin, and the immune system, especially in the present pandemic of COVID-19. So I think we need not be got panic and can try VCO to increase our immunity against COVID-19. I take this opportunity to express my heartfelt thanks on behalf of ICC and the audience to Dr. Mary for her commitment towards the coconut community and agree without reason to be part of the webinar, though she is other part of the globe and shared her pre-recorded presentation. Thank you, Dr. Mary. There is no word to express about our second speaker, Dr. Toby, who always be kind enough to be part of ICC and presented on the concept of the theme of the World Coconut Day, that is, we need the coconut to save the world. As we know, the earlier months there was negative campaign against coconut oil and coconut cultivation, which was scrolling in different social media. Dr. Toby explained the scientific reasons to rebut against the negative impacts and the use of VCO against the COVID-19 and the potential attributes of coconut oil. He shared the studies being carried on the VCO against COVID-19. Thank you, Dr. Toby, always being part of ICC family and supporting the community. Our third speaker, Dr. Pons Portugal, the chair of ICC Technical Working Group, who always be the part of ICC family and guiding and assisting with the immense experience in the sector. He briefly presented the ICC strategic plan and programs of ICC. Thank you, Dr. Pons, for your constant support and motivation. Our fourth speaker is the known name in the non-food sector of coconut, Parth Ase. He spoke on Save the World by Coconut Charcoal. Charcoal is the healthiest source of bioenergy, having numerous uses. He is a big player in the briquette industry. He presented how the industry is flourishing and having good demand in the export market. Terima kasih, Pak Asep. Last but not the least, the strong pillar of ICC, our beloved Executive Director, Madam Delfina, whose leadership motivating and encouraging all to be active always and indifferent and in forefront to support the community. Thank you, Madam, for all your guidance and advice. In her welcome speech, she mentioned the coconut scenario and the commitment to the sector. Thank you, Madam. Of course, our motivational and active member of ICC COGEN, Mr. Vincent, the interim COGEN coordinator and part of ICC, for all his support and eagerness to help ICC at the community always. Thank you, Vincent. My strong ICC secretariat team of Alit, Mufid, Bahari, Maria, Tati, Yanto, Rahman, Didi, and Bambang for all their support and assistance to make this webinar a grand success. As we all know, for the success of any event, many people act behind the screen, which is not being noticed by the spectator or the audience. Without them, this could not be possible to organize. Lastly, I take this opportunity to thank all the audience, listeners, representatives from the ICC member countries, and friends of Coconut family across the globe for their continued support and encouragement. And we will unite together to make this a sustainable development of the sector. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. A virtual applause to Mridula and the ICC. Just to say, everybody, that if you do want any further information, please get in touch with us. And as Mufid has said, if you want an e-certificate of attendance of this webinar, you need to make sure that your name is registered